"Pretend to be my fiancé tonight," said the woman in the red dress to the stranger at the hotel bar. The jazz band carried on with its mellow trumpet line. As though the evening hadn't just split open, Solène Arquette's lips curved into a practiced smile, but her pulse betrayed her, quick and uneven. She hadn't expected her little performance, grabbing a stranger and calling him her fiancé, to summon this kind of danger. The older man, Henri Valmont, still stared at Calum. Shock in his eyes, shock that belonged to ghosts, not men. His voice was gravel when it finally returned. "You have no place here, Dawn." Calum Dawn said nothing. His grip on Solène's hand tightened until she almost winced. His jaw was locked as though restraining a tide of words. Solène tried to break the silence. "Mother," she said lightly, "you've interrupted us." Calum was just telling me her mother Geneviève cut in, her voice sharp enough to slice glass. "Solène." Step away from him. That tone carried authority, not warmth. Solène tilted her chin higher. She had lived her entire life under her mother's orchestrations. Dinners arranged, dresses chosen, men paraded before her like prizes at auction. Not tonight. "Actually," Solène said, threading her fingers more firmly into Calum's, "I think I'll stay right here." Henri let out a bitter laugh. "You don't know who you're holding on to, girl." "Perhaps not," she replied, though her heart thundered. "But I know who I'm avoiding." Her gaze flicked deliberately toward him. For a second she thought Salem might pull away. Leave her stranded. But then, something shifted in his eyes. Defiance, maybe, or recognition of a shared desperation. Whatever it was, Calum leaned closer. His arm slipped around her waist. To anyone else they looked like a couple. But beneath the surface, it was a battlefield. Later, when they escaped the bar, Solène exhaled hard. The hotel's marble corridor echoed with her heels. Her hand still caught in Calum's. "Thank you for playing along," she whispered. His reply was low, almost dangerous. "You don't understand what you've done." "Then explain it," she countered, stopping him by the arm. "Because right now all I see is a stranger who rescued me from an arranged humiliation." Calum turned, and for the first time she noticed the faint scar along his jawline, half hidden beneath the stubble. His eyes, steel gray, met hers with something raw. That man, Henri Valmont. He destroyed my family. My father died because of him. Solène blinked. The words sank in like ice. That can't be true. Henri is respected, trusted. A bitter smile cut across Calum's mouth. Respected by those who profited from his lies. My father trusted him once. It cost everything. She wanted to scoff, dismiss it as paranoia. But something in his tone carried no theatrics, no exaggeration. Only the weary conviction of someone who had lived too long with truth no one else would admit. They reached the elevator. Solène pressed the button with a trembling finger. As the doors slid open, Calum hesitated. "You shouldn't be near me," he muttered. "Whatever feud lies between your family and mine, it will swallow you." The doors began to close. But Solène blocked them with her arm. "Maybe I don't care. Maybe I'm tired of pretending for them." That caught him. His gaze softened. Only for a moment. Then he stepped inside, and she followed. The elevator hummed upward. Silence thick around them. Solène's reflection in the mirrored walls looked steadier than she felt. She thought of Henri's expression, her mother's command. Both held secrets. And here she was, locked in a small box with a man who might unravel them. She broke the silence. "So if I'm to be your fake fiancé, what do I need to know?" Calum studied her, testing whether she mocked him, but her tone was genuine. Finally, he said, "You need to know that the Dawn name isn't safe, and neither are those who carry it." His words hung heavy in the air. Hours later, back in her suite, Solène lay awake. The city's lights painted restless patterns across the ceiling. Her mother had called twice, both times with clipped instructions to stay away from Calum. That more than anything confirmed he was dangerous, not because of who he was, but because of what he knew. Her phone buzzed again, this time a message from an unknown number. Meet me tomorrow. 10 a.m., Riverside Cafe. We need to talk. C.D. Solène stared at the glowing screen. She knew she should delete it. Forget him. Return to her carefully curated life. But the truth was simple. She was hooked, not just because of the thrill, not just because he had saved her, but because when his hand touched hers in that bar, it had felt less like pretense and more like fate, and she was beginning to fear what that meant. The next morning, the cafe smelled of roasted beans and warm bread. Solène slid into a corner booth, nerves prickling her skin. Calum arrived minutes later, a dark coat making him seem more shadow than man. He wasted no time. You shouldn't have come. You invited me, she reminded him. I wanted to warn you. Henry won't let last night pass. Neither will your mother. Then let them chase, Solène said, surprising herself with the steel in her voice. I want answers. What happened between you and Henry? Calum looked at her for a long moment, then answered. His voice dropped to a whisper. My father built everything we had. A small shipping firm, honest, steady. Henri was his partner, trusted like a brother. But Henri stole it all, contracts, clients, investors. When my father confronted him, lawsuits followed. Lies spread. My father was called corrupt, ruined in every paper. He died with nothing but disgrace to his name. Solène's throat tightened. She had grown up hearing Henry praised at galas, toasted as a visionary. To imagine him a thief, a destroyer, it shook her foundations. And your mother, Calum, added eyes narrowing. She stood beside him through it all. She knew. The words hit like a slap. Solène had always suspected Geneviève kept secrets, but this was another scale. Her voice broke. You're saying my mother helped bury your family? Yes, Calum said simply, and now she wants to bury you in her schemes too. The cafe noise faded into background static. Solène sat frozen, torn between denial and the chilling possibility he spoke the truth. Calum leaned forward, his eyes fierce. You wanted me to play your fiancé. Then understand this. You've already stepped into a war older than both of us. His hand brushed hers across the table. Not as a lover, but as someone binding her to a dangerous pact. And in that moment, Solène realized. She hadn't just asked a stranger for a favor. She had invited herself into his fight. The cafe emptied slowly after the morning rush. Only the faint hiss of the espresso machine remained, and the muted hum of traffic outside. Solène sat across from Calum, her cappuccino untouched cooling between them. She had always thought herself clever at playing roles, slipping into whatever mask her mother required for society's endless stage. But with him, masks seemed useless. You said I stepped into a war, she murmured. Her finger traced the rim of the porcelain cup. But what if I don't want to step out? Calum's gaze lifted, sharp as flint. Don't romanticize this. It's not a story you get to escape once you've had your fun. If Henry suspects you're on my side, he'll make sure you pay for it. Solène tilted her head. A half smile tugged at her lips. And yet you asked me here. You could have stayed away, Dawn. The way she said his name made him shift slightly, as if it carried weight he wasn't used to. He leaned back in the booth, exhaling. Maybe I wanted to see if you were foolish enough to show. Then here I am. She spread her hands. Foolish and all. The moment felt lighter, yet the air still carried tension. Calum's shoulders softened a fraction, but his voice stayed low. My father used to say, a man's ruin always starts with trust in the wrong person. I wonder if I've just made the same mistake. Solène frowned. You think I'll betray you? Not willingly, he said, but your mother. She knows how to use people. You've been her pawn long before last night. The words stung, because they weren't entirely false. Geneviève Arquette had orchestrated every step of her daughter's life, but Solène had never admitted not aloud how suffocating it felt. Maybe I'm tired of being her pawn, she whispered. Calum studied her, eyes unreadable. For a moment, Solène thought he might laugh, dismiss her rebellion as trivial. Instead, he leaned closer, his voice almost gentle. Then you'll need more than courage. You'll need to know the truth. Later that evening, Solène returned to the family townhouse. Chandeliers glowed above polished floors. The scent of lilies filled the halls, pristine as always. But she felt only unease. Geneviève was waiting in the drawing room, a glass of white wine poised in her elegant hand. You've caused quite a scene, she said coolly. Henri is furious. Do you know what embarrassment you brought us? Solène forced herself. Calm. Embarrassment or exposure. Her mother's eyes narrowed. Don't play games with me. I met with Calum today. The words slipped out before she could stop them. The glass in Genevieve's hand stilled, but her expression stayed composed. That was unwise. Unwise or dangerous? Solène asked. Tell me the truth, mother. What did you and Henri do to the Dorn family? A pause. For the first time in years, Geneviève faltered. She set the glass down carefully, buying herself seconds. Then her gaze sharpened. Icy, commanding. Stay away from him. He will ruin you as surely as his father ruined himself. That's not an answer. It's the only one you'll get. Solène clenched her fists. She wanted to scream, to demand details. But Genevieve's tone made clear no further questions would be entertained. That night, unable to sleep, Solène drifted to her father's old study. It had been locked since his death, but she still knew where the spare key rested. Inside, dust lingered on untouched shelves. His desk smelled faintly of cedar and old paper. She searched through drawers until she found a box of letters, among them a bundle tied with red string, stamped with the Dorn Shipping Company's crest. She unfolded one. Dear Alain, I've heard the rumors Henri spreads. Do not believe him. Hold steady. You have allies still. Trust will be your strength. Signed Matthias Dorn. Her throat tightened. Calum's father. She read another, written weeks later. The tone desperate. They're closing in. Henri has bribed the court. I fear my testimony will not stand. Alain, forgive me if I cannot protect what we built. I never thought betrayal would come from someone we welcomed as kin. Solène's hands trembled. Her father, Alain Arquette, had hidden this. He had known Henri's treachery. And yet her mother had stood proudly beside Henri for years. Why? The next day Solène returned to Calum. He met her on a riverside path, the water glinting under late afternoon sun. Joggers and couples strolled past, oblivious. She handed him the letters. These were in my father's study, your father's handwriting. Calum's eyes flickered as he read. His hand clenched the paper tightly. So it's true, he muttered. My father tried to save him. And your family hid it. Solène whispered, I didn't know. I believe you. His voice cracked slightly, surprising her. For a long moment, he stood staring out at the river. Finally, he said, your father wasn't the enemy. Maybe he was caught in the middle. But Henri made sure both our families paid. Their eyes met, and in that fragile second, something shifted between them. Not romance. Not yet. But recognition, two people bound by scars neither had chosen. That evening they dined together in secrecy. A quiet bistro. Candlelight flickered against worn brick walls. The scent of garlic and butter filled the room. I should hate you, Calum admitted softly, swirling the wine in his glass. You carry the name Arquette. For years, I thought that was enough. And I should fear you, Solène replied. But instead I feel like I can breathe when you're near. He looked at her. Long. Searching. You're not afraid of what happens if we're seen together. I'm more afraid of living in silence, she said. Calum chuckled under his breath. You're reckless, or maybe free, she countered. The moment stretched, warm, fragile. His hand brushed hers across the table, tentative yet deliberate. For once, neither pulled away. But outside in the darkened street, a shadow lingered, a man with sharp eyes, phone in hand, snapping a photo through the window. Back at the Arquette townhouse, Geneviève received the photo minutes later. Solène and Calum, hand in hand, candlelight between them, her lips pressed into a thin line. She forwarded the image to Henri Valmont, with a single message: we may need to intervene sooner than planned, and somewhere in the city. Henri smiled coldly. The photograph spread faster than wildfire, in circles where appearances meant survival. By morning, whispers already clung to Solène's name. Like perfume turned sour. She felt it in the stairs at the gallery event her mother forced her to attend. Crystal chandeliers gleamed overhead. The air smelled of lacquered wood and expensive champagne. But all Solène could think of, every murmured laugh, seemed aimed at her. Arquette's daughter with adorned scandalous. Dangerous even. They say Henri nearly collapsed when he saw it. Solène kept her posture perfect. Chin high, but unease gnawed at her ribs. She had always known how to navigate gossip, smile when whispered about, never flinch when judged. But this was different. This was war dressed as rumor. Calum had warned her, and now the cost was being tallied publicly. 2 nights later, she stood in Calum's apartment for the first time. It wasn't what she expected. Small, tucked above a bookstore. It smelled faintly of ink and old pages. Sparse furniture filled the space. But one wall was covered, documents, photographs, handwritten notes, pinned like fragments of a puzzle. She stood before it silently. Some photos of her mother, others of Henri Valmont. Newspaper clippings screamed headlines: Valmont expands trade empire. Dawn firm declares bankruptcy. This is your life, she murmured. This is what's left of it, Calum replied from behind her. He carried 2 mugs of coffee, set one gently at her side. I've spent years piecing together how Henri did it, how he made my father look like a thief while he walked away clean. Solène touched one of the papers, her father's name in brittle print. But my father, he must have known something. He had letters. Why didn't he speak? Calum's voice dropped. Maybe he tried, maybe someone silenced him. The words chilled her, though she didn't want to believe them. That night, as rain beat softly against the window, Calum told her more. I was 18 when it happened, he began, his gaze fixed somewhere beyond the room. One day we were stable, respected. The next we were villains. Reporters swarmed. Friends vanished. My father kept saying, truth will prevail. But it didn't. He collapsed one evening, stroke, they said. I never saw him breathe again. His voice caught just slightly. And Solène's chest ached. And your mother, she asked gently. Already gone? She left long before the scandal. Couldn't stand the shame. So it was just me. Silence settled, broken only by rain. Solène wanted to say something, but words felt too fragile. Instead, she reached for his hand. For a moment, he didn't move. Then he let her fingers close around his grip steady but cautious, as though afraid of breaking. In the following weeks, their clandestine meetings became routine. Cafes, hidden corners of the park, long walks by the river. Each moment stitched them closer, even as the world outside sharpened its claws. One evening, Calum handed her a folded paper. I found this in court records." She opened it, her father's name again, Alain Arquette, listed as a witness, with a curious annotation, "Testimony withdrawn." "Withdrawn," Solène whispered. "Why, that's the question." Calum's jaw tightened. "Henri must have pressured him, or your mother did." The thought made Solène dizzy. Could her father have abandoned the Dorns willingly, or had Geneviève forced his silence? A memory stirred. Years ago, Solène at 10, standing outside her father's study door. Her father's low tone. "I can't let him lose everything, Geneviève." Her mother's sharper reply. "Then think of your daughter. Do you want her tainted by his fall? At the time, Solène hadn't understood. Now the pieces slid together with frightening clarity. "My father tried to help," she whispered. "He wanted to testify." But mother stopped him. Calum looked at her, a flicker of sorrow in his eyes. Then he died carrying that weight. Just like mine. The realization was too heavy. Solène pressed her palms to her eyes. Tears burned. "Everything I thought I knew was a lie." Calum's hand touched her shoulder gently. "Lies have long shadows, but you're not bound to them." Their closeness grew quietly, not fiery declarations, but shared silence, hands brushing in passing, the comfort of presence when words failed, yet beneath it all, danger swelled. The Arquette name was still currency, and Geneviève guarded it like a fortress. Solène's every absence raised suspicion, and Henri, ever watchful, began to tighten the noose. At a luncheon, Henri cornered her away from the crowd. His cologne cigars and musk made her stomach turn. "You think you can play games with him?" His smile was thin. "Predatory. You'll ruin yourself and your family. Dorn is poison, always was." Solène steadied her breath. "Perhaps it's your reflection I see in that poison." For a moment his mask slipped. His eyes darkened. "Careful, girl. You have no idea what you're inviting." That night, Solène returned to Calum shaken. He listened silently as she recounted Henri's words. Then for the first time she saw true fear in his expression. "He's moving faster than I thought," Calum muttered. "If he feels threatened, he'll act. He's not a man of patience when cornered." "Then what do we do?" Solène asked. His gaze lifted, intense, unwavering. "We expose him, publicly, with evidence he can't bury." Solène's breath caught. It was madness, but something inside her, some long-buried fire, ignited. "Yes," she said softly. Together. Their plan was reckless, but necessary. Gather proof from archives, witnesses, anything Henri hadn't destroyed. Late nights, secret meetings, careful steps through shadows. And with each step, Solène felt herself breaking further from the cage her mother had built. One evening, after hours combing through library records, Solène sat slumped across the table from Calum. Candlelight from the lamps made him look younger, less hardened. "You're relentless," he said quietly. "So are you." A faint smile touched his lips. "We make a dangerous pair." "Or a perfect one," she whispered before she could stop herself. Their eyes locked. This time, when his hand brushed her cheek, there was no hesitation. His lips found hers, not desperate, but steady. Like an answer to a question neither dared ask aloud. The kiss lingered, fragile, unshakable. But outside, unknown to them, a pair of eyes watched from the darkened hall. Camera in hand, and with a click of the shutter, their secret became ammunition. The photograph surfaced at the worst possible time. The annual Arquette Foundation Gala glittered with chandeliers and sequined gowns. The air was thick with champagne and polite applause. Solène had dreaded it all week, but her mother insisted she attend. "Appearances must be upheld," Geneviève said with her usual steel. But as Solène entered the ballroom, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations hushed, then resumed in sharper tones. She felt the weight of eyes on her scanning, judging. And then she saw why on the cover of La Gazette, displayed conveniently on a waiter's tray, was the photograph. Her, with Calum, kissing in the library's golden light. Her throat constricted. Across the room, Henri Valmont smiled like a wolf in silk. The gala pressed on, oblivious to her turmoil. Solène stood near the balcony doors, desperate for air. The orchestra's waltz felt suffocating. Then a voice came low at her shoulder. You've made quite the spectacle." She turned. Calum stood there, dark suit tailored but understated, his presence a storm contained. She hadn't expected him to come. "They know," she whispered. His jaw tightened. "Then let them." Her pulse leapt. "Calum, my mother Henri, they'll crucify you. They've already tried," he said bitterly. "Tonight, they'll hear the truth instead." Before she could reply, a microphone screeched at the center of the room. Henri had taken the stage, his glass raised. "Friends," he began, voice smooth as oil. "Tonight we celebrate legacy, the Arquette name, the Valmont Empire, pillars of our city's prosperity." His eyes slid toward Solène with calculated pause. "But it seems certain names have chosen to consort with the ruins of the past." Gasps rippled. Solène's stomach dropped. Henri's gaze burned into Calum. The Dawn name, a stain of betrayal and theft, and now a danger to this family. Calum stepped forward before Solène could stop him. The crowd parted, curiosity electric. He reached the stage, his voice clear and sharp. "You speak of stains, Valmont. But yours run deeper. You stole my father's company. You ruined his name with lies. And you hid behind the Arquettes to polish your image." The room buzzed with shocked murmurs. Henri's smile didn't falter. Baseless slander from a bitter orphan. "Not baseless," Calum snapped. He pulled from his coat a folded set of papers, copies of letters Solène had given him. Matthias Dorn's letters to Alain Arquette. Proof of your deceit. A hush fell. Henri's eyes flickered just for an instant before his mask returned. Forgeries. Nothing more. They're real. Solène's voice rang out, surprising even herself. She stepped beside Calum, her gown a blaze of crimson against the stage lights. "I found them in my father's study. He tried to help, but he was silenced. By you and by my mother." Gasps again, sharper this time. Genevieve's face turned pale, her grip on her wineglass unsteady. The orchestra had gone silent. All eyes were locked on the stage. Henri's tone hardened. "Careful, Solène. You speak of things you don't understand." "I understand enough," she shot back. Her voice trembled, but her chin lifted. "You destroyed the Dawns, and you caged me in lies to protect yourself. No more." For the first time, Henri's facade cracked. His hand trembled on the microphone. Calum stepped closer, his presence a shield at her side. "The truth's out, Valmont. You can't bury it anymore." The crowd erupted, half in disbelief, half in scandalous delight. Conversations tangled in accusation and doubt. A few supporters of Henri tried to shout him down, but others whispered fiercely, remembering long-dismissed rumors. Old inconsistencies. Geneviève moved quickly, then taking the stage with regal poise. "Enough," she commanded. The room stilled. Her eyes darted between Solène and Calum, then to Henri. This is not the place. But the place no longer mattered. The truth had slipped its cage. Later, away from the ballroom, Solène stood on the balcony, her hands shaking as city lights glittered below. Calum joined her, his face unreadable. "You didn't have to stand with me," he said quietly. "Yes, I did," she replied. "Because if I didn't, I'd be choosing silence, and I won't live like my father did, swallowed by silence." He exhaled a sound caught between relief and grief. "You've just made yourself their enemy. Then let me be." Their eyes met, heavy with exhaustion and unspoken longing. But before either could say more, the balcony doors opened. Geneviève stood framed in gold light, her expression colder than winter. "You've destroyed everything," she hissed. "Do you even realize what you've done?" Solène's voice steadied. "I finally did something true." Genevieve's lips thinned. "You think truth protects you. It doesn't. Henri will come for you both, and I will not shield you." With that, she turned and left, her heels clicking like gunshots against marble. The gala ended in chaos. Whispers swirled, alliances frayed. By the time Solène and Kylum slipped out, photographers already clustered outside, flashbulbs eager for scandal. Kylum guided her swiftly through the crowd, shielding her with his coat until they reached the car. Inside, silence hung heavy. Solène pressed her forehead to the cool glass. "There's no going back now." "No," Kylum agreed softly. His hand brushed hers on the seat, hesitant but lingering. "But maybe forward is all that's left." She turned toward him, tears threatening, and forward means what Kylum wore ruin. He looked at her with that steady steel in his eyes. Forward means survival. Together. The car drove on into the night, the city behind them buzzing with scandal, but ahead only uncertainty stretched, and somewhere in a darkened office Henri Valmont poured himself a drink, the tremor in his hand betraying his rage. "This isn't over," he muttered into the glass. "Not for them. Not ever." The days after the gala felt like walking through broken glass. Newspapers painted Solène as reckless, disloyal, even dangerous to the Arquette name. Columnists dissected her red gown as if it were war paint, a signal of rebellion. Photographers hounded her at every turn, shouting questions about her forbidden romance with Kylum Dorn. At the estate, the atmosphere soured into quiet hostility. Geneviève refused to speak directly to her daughter. Staff members whispered behind closed doors. Business calls stretched late into the night. Henri's voice often echoed through the marble halls. But what chilled Solène most was her mother's silence. A silence not of grief, but of calculation. She found Kylum one evening at the old Dorn townhouse. The one Henri had mocked as a carcass of debt, its shutters broken, its roof scarred with weather. Yet Kylum had lit a fire inside, stubborn warmth against decay. "You shouldn't be here," he said as she entered. But his eyes softened, "and leave you to face them alone." She closed the door behind her. "I chose this. I'll see it through." For a while they said nothing, only listened to the fire crackle. Then Kylum pulled out a small tin box from beneath the hearthstone. Inside, neatly stacked, were more letters. "My father wrote these the week before everything collapsed," he said. "He knew Valmont was moving against him. He even suspected my mother's accident wasn't an accident." Solène's breath caught. "Henri." Kylum nodded grimly, and Geneviève helped cover it up. The revelation cleaved something in her chest. She had always feared her mother's heart was made of stone, but to see it laid bare like this, to know Geneviève had bartered morality for status, was worse than hate. "Then there's no escaping it," Solène whispered. "Henri will come for you, for us." Kylum's hand found hers, strong, trembling at once. Let him, but he won't win this time. That night, as storm clouds rolled over the city, Geneviève summoned Solène back to the estate. The dining room was dim. Only a single chandelier cast sharp shadows across the long table. Geneviève sat at its head, posture regal, eyes unreadable. "You forced my hand," she said, voice cool as glass. "Henri insists we cut you off. Bank accounts, inheritance, the Arquette Trust. He says you're compromised." Solène's pulse raced, but her jaw set. "Then cut me off." Genevieve's nostrils flared. "Do you even understand what that means? You'll have nothing. You'll live like a beggar with him." "I'll live with the truth," Solène replied. For the first time, Genevieve's composure cracked. Just a fracture, but Solène saw it. Not rage, Not disdain, fear. You don't know what Henri is capable of, her mother whispered. He will not stop until Calum is buried. And you with him. The warning came too late. That same night, as Calum locked up the Dorney townhouse, he noticed the smell. Sharp, chemical, wrong. By the time he realized the back door had been forced, fire had already begun its crawl across the lower floor. Flames licked the wallpaper, devoured years of dust and memory. Calum grabbed the tin box of letters and fought through the smoke, coughing, staggering. Outside, a dark car idled at the corner, its headlights off. He knew. Henri. He stumbled into the street just as Solane arrived, breathless from defying her mother's command to stay home. She ran to him, pulling him clear of the collapsing porch. Calum. He clutched the tin box to his chest, coughing blood. He tried to burn it all, the truth, the past, us. Solane looked over her shoulder. The car's engine roared before it vanished into the night. Later, as fire crews battled the blaze, Solane's pressed her forehead against Calum's. Both smelled of smoke and ruin. There's no safe place left, he rasped. She held his face in her hands. Tears streaked ash. Then we make our own. The sirens wailed behind them. Neighbors whispered. Journalists' cameras flashed, but in that moment neither flinched. They had been stripped of wealth, of legacy, of shelter, but not of each other. In Henri Valmont's office across town, the man poured another drink. Steady hands this time. The fire hadn't finished the job, but it had sent the message. He lifted his glass, staring into the amber swirl. They'll learn, he murmured. A smile ghosted his lips. They all learn. And somewhere in the darkness of the Arquette estate, Geneviève Mercer sat alone, her hands shaking for the first time in years, whispering to herself words she dared not say aloud. Matthias, forgive me. The boardroom of Valmont Enterprises gleamed with its usual chill perfection. Glass walls, a polished mahogany table, the scent of power steeped into every surface. Yet tonight, beneath the chandelier's cold light, it pulsed with unease. Henri Valmont stood at the head. Executives flanked him, shifting in their chairs like loyal hounds awaiting command. His suit was immaculate, his smile sharper than any blade. He had called this emergency meeting to reassure investors after whispers of scandal. But when the doors opened, it wasn't a banker or politician who entered. It was Solane Arquette, draped in white silk, eyes blazing with defiance. At her side, Calum Dorn carried the battered tin box that had survived the fire. The room froze. Ah, Henri said smoothly, his voice curling like smoke. The prodigal heiress, and the pauper she's chosen. Tell me, my dear, did you come to watch me put the final nail in your little rebellion? Solane's chin lifted. No, I came to show them who you are. Calum stepped forward. He placed the tin box on the table. The lid creaked open, Matthias Dorn's letters revealed. Ink faded, but words unbroken. Your empire was built on theft, Calum said. His voice steady, though his hands trembled. My father predicted your betrayal. He documented everything, every falsified contract, every silenced witness, even the accident that killed my mother. A murmur rippled through the board. Faces turned pale. Henri laughed low and venomous. Fabrications. You expect these men to believe ghost stories written by a failed dreamer. But Solane stepped closer, her gaze locked on the executives. You all know the truth. You've seen the cracks in his empire, the bribes, the threats. How long before his downfall drags you with him? The weight of her words pressed into the room. Some executives looked away. Others whispered furiously. Henri's smile faltered. You dare, he hissed, turning on Solane, after everything your family owes me. But another voice cut through. Enough. Geneviève Mercer had entered silently. Her heels clicked like judgment across the marble floor. For once, her elegance was not armor, but confession. She placed a trembling hand on the letters. "They're real," she said. "I should know. I helped bury them." Gasps spread like wildfire. Henry's face drained of color. "Genevieve," he whispered. A serpent caught in its own coil. She lifted her chin, tears glinting but unfallen. "I let you destroy a good man. I let you turn me into your accomplice. But I will not let you destroy my daughter." The silence that followed was shattering. Henri lunged forward, but Calum stepped between him and Solène's stance unyielding. Security summoned by whispers of unrest poured into the room. Only this time their eyes did not fix on Calum. They fixed on Henri. The board chairman cleared his throat, voice grave. "Mr. Valmont, you're finished." Henri's roar of protest echoed uselessly against the glass walls. The hounds had turned on their master. When the gavel fell hours later, Valmont Enterprises voted to remove Henri Valmont from power. His assets frozen, his name tainted beyond repair. Cameras waited outside, ready to devour the spectacle of a titan undone. Inside, Solène clutched Calum's hand. Their fingers entwined not in secrecy anymore, but in triumph. Genevieve, pale and shaken, approached her daughter. For a moment words failed her. Then with a voice softer than Solène had ever heard, she whispered, "I was wrong. But if there's any mercy left in you, let me try to be your mother again." Solène hesitated. Then she nodded once. Not forgiveness, not yet. But the first fragile step. Morning broke over Paris with a strange stillness, as if the city itself had paused to watch the fall of Henri Valmont unfold. Headlines screamed from every newspaper stand. His arrest footage played on silent cafe screens. The once untouchable titan reduced to a trembling figure shielded from flashbulbs by officers' arms. For Solène, the victory felt unreal. She stood on the balcony of her modest apartment. Not the gilded Arquette estate, a space she had chosen for herself. She watched the light wash across the Seine. Behind her, Calum brewed coffee in a chipped pot. He hummed tunelessly, his presence grounding her more than any empire ever had. "Looks like Paris is finally breathing again," he said, handing her a cup. She smiled. The warmth of it chased away years of cold duty. "So are we." Later that week, in the quiet of Montmartre, they buried the tin box of letters beneath a chestnut tree. It was not to hide the truth. The world already knew. It was to lay Matthias Dorn's suffering to rest. Solène knelt, pressing her palm to the soil. "Your story lives now," she whispered. "And so do we." Genevieve came too, dressed not in couture, but in a simple black dress, her makeup bare. She stood apart, at first hesitant. Finally, she approached her daughter. The two women exchanged a long look. Years of silence, control, and betrayal suspended in that fragile moment. Then Solène reached out, and Genevieve took her hand. Not as mother and heiress, but as two women learning how to heal. As dusk painted the sky in lavender and gold, Calum wrapped an arm around Solène's shoulders. "Where do we go from here?" he asked. She leaned into him. A soft laugh escaped. "Anywhere. As long as it's not a ballroom full of liars." They walked away together, hand in hand, leaving the past buried, leaving the city alive with possibility. For the first time in years, Solène's steps felt light. Not as an Arquette, not as a pawn, but simply as herself. And beside her Calum, no longer an enemy, no longer a stranger, but something rarer, a beginning. And that's how Solène and Calum finally broke free from Henri's grip, choosing love and freedom over power and lies. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next story.